Welcome to the Social Work Rants Podcast, providing a platform for social workers to share their stories. The podcast covers a wide range of topics, including mental health, social justice, policy, and the day-to-day realities of the profession. This season, Season 9, will be focusing on the mental and emotional aspects of money for people of color. Hope you enjoy. Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of Season 9 of the Social Work Rants Podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in and tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast. I appreciate all the love and support. Gracias a todos por su apoyo. Season 9 in full effect. As mentioned before, focusing more on money aspects and entrepreneurship, but relates to social work. So we got to talk about money in these social work streets because we do a lot of work and we need to get paid our worth, and we need to make sure we monetize our transferable skills. So don't be afraid to talk about money in these social work streets. So if you're watching or listening to it. So this week we talking about networking and the beauty of networking. And I've been in this entrepreneurial space these last 4 years. And as many of you know, or if you don't know, I wrote a book, Trying Through Pain, How to Maximize Your Full Potential in Hard Times. Is available on Amazon. A paperback is available as an audiobook as of this summer. And my guest at this time is a social worker out in DC. And we in the same writing class. So that's how we we linked up. Shout out to our coach, Ash Cash. He actually was on the podcast during COVID in 2020. So being part of his class, and that's how I got my poetry book done and out, and people bought it, and so I wanted to get the audiobook finally done after a year after starting and stopping and figuring it out, and got it done. So Andre not only is a social worker but using transferable skills, he's got a book out, and we'll be talking about that in just a bit. So Andre Edwards, how you doing, my friend?
I'm thankful. I'm great. Thank you. For how you doing?
Good, man. This is one day at a time. That's all we could do.
Definitely. One day at a time.
Yeah.
Every day.
Uh, Before we get started on the conversation, just want to let the viewers and listeners know that this podcast is not to be used as a substitute for individual therapy, any sort of counseling therapy, any sort of way. If you need help, call 988. If it's a real emergency, call 911. If you have a therapist, call your therapist. If you have a psychiatrist, call your psychiatrist, or you just need to talk to somebody, reach out and call somebody. For all my viewers and listeners out of the country, whatever your emergency line is, use that. It's okay not to be okay, but definitely get the help that you need. And as of this recording is National Suicide Awareness Month, so definitely the work needs to continue to be done to deal with the stigma of mental health, mental illness, and folks got to get the help that they need, and especially this government has not done a great job in the post-COVID era of touching mental health and addressing that. So, that being said, Andre, let people know who you are and what you do in these social work streets.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, Mr. Moreno, for allowing me to come on your podcast and just be able to share some information and share a little bit about my background. I appreciate that. Once again, my name is Andre Edwards. I'm out of the Washington, D.C. area. Just a little bit about me as far as my background in social work. I started my social work profession at University of Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. I started a program called Mothers to Sons, and from when I moved from Pittsburgh, I got my master's degree from Pittsburgh in social work. and mental health. I moved back to DC, and then I worked in foster care for a moment in time. And from foster care, I was able to learn some of the judicial ins and outs and some of the things that they, how they function. And then from there, I moved into school behavioral health, where I was providing prevention, intervention, and treatment for students. So the reason why they had that program was to offer less of a barrier to those type of services, especially treatment, because it's challenging for students, especially lower income students, to be able to access those services, either economically or even time wise. So from school behavioral health, I work with the agency, and from the agency, I moved into working for the city, and doing the same thing as far as the same type of program providing school behavioral health. Work with multiple students in multiple settings. For instance, elementary school, middle school, and high school. Also perform different crises responses throughout the city, which is a great benefit, being able to connect with students after a crisis, whether it's a loss of life or whatever type of crisis response. I think it's a unique thing that Washington, D.C. does. So I was able to be part of crisis response teams. Also responding to teacher needs as well. So it's more so not just student based, it's community, school based, as far as school community based. And then from being a full-time clinician, I moved into another position where, I have my LICSW, and I'm performing more of consultation to schools and to CBOs to help clinicians in schools integrate with one another. So that's the more strategic position that I'm in. So just dealing with multiple schools throughout Washington, D.C., also serving schools as well, providing prevention and intervention. So it could be a lot trying to make that happen, putting those puzzles together. So it's a campaign that, is really pushed at this time, integrating behavioral health services into school, making it a norm. Also, in addition to that, my functions, I just don't talk with clinicians and other social workers or counselors. I connect with police officers in regards to suicide prevention, and that has been very interesting. Because that I didn't prior to doing this type of work, I wasn't that aware how acutely police officers or law enforcement officers require that type of attention. It's very important to be able to lend that type of attention and let them know that they're very needed, and there's services out here that they can connect with in terms of suicide prevention. What I found out it's a sensitive subject. It's a very important subject to law enforcement officers, and there's still a lot of stigma related to seeking help. So I think it's something of great value that Washington D.C. is doing, and I hope, I don't know what other states are doing, but I hope other states can follow that type of example as far as serving their officers in that capacity if they're not already doing it. I'm also able to, in my current capacity, I have connected with first responders, paramedics, first responders. Once again, I'm always learning and willing to learn about different populations. And I didn't know that first responders, it should be obvious, but there's a lot of trauma with coming being as first responder. I didn't know that their suicide rates were some. I didn't know that was a metric out there. Just put it like that.
Right.
I didn't know. So what I'm finding out in my profession now is, I've worked with students, but it's another thing working with adults as far as the prevention side, not really treatment, but more their prevention. So it's very interesting. So I'm thankful for, just being able to uh, my history of working with young males, then in foster care and some school behavior health, and now kind of back and forth between working with clinicians and first responders and law enforcement officers. So I'm having an interesting journey in my social work profession. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds very very interesting. And like, yet I mean, I've heard about police officers and suicide rates regarding them, but we don't really talk about EMS or the fire department and other helping professionals. Shoot, we're social workers. We're in the helping profession as well, and we seen a lot of stuff. And I've talked about on the podcast regarding working during COVID and having the losses that I faced, losing clients during the pandemic, and had other social workers who worked in hospitals on the podcast, and just working in the hospital during the pandemic. I can even really like imagine that aspect, but EMS and those type of professions, yeah, like if you're dealing with a fire, that's traumatic. You're dealing with like gunshot victims and all sort of stuff, and EMS gotta be there and do that and take that home with them after they're done whatever long shift that they got. It's I can imagine like the trauma that they face and how they deal with that if they deal with that at all.
Yeah, I have a greater appreciation for them now. Whenever I see fire trucks or those EMS buses go along, the sirens, I have a greater appreciation for them because they're going, they're running. They're all throughout the city, from emergency to emergency. They're running to we run into crises. We often talk about police officers, how police officers don't run away from, but run toward bullets. EMS persons, they're running toward the crises, situations where they're not sure what they're walking into and what they're going to see. So I appreciate police officers and EMS responding. So
How
yeah.
how is it working with police officers with everything that has happened since 2020, and there was a lot of talk about defunding the police and things of that nature. And then I know DC, there's a strong push of having DC becoming its own state. Like DC, I find DC very fascinating. Every time I go to DC, it's like there's a new skyscraper open up, and then it's like people call DC like the you know the a big city of like the south, the East Coast version of San Francisco, and all the skyscrapers and gentrification happening at the same time. Like, there's still there are pockets of urban cities that still, haven't reached the gentrification status yet, and marijuana is legal in DC, and it's like a lot of stuff happened. There's the tent city that's like literally like minutes away from the White House that you walk right past like New York Ave and like see all the tents up, and then you walk into the White House and it's like literally like walking distance. So DC, I find DC though very fascinating and interesting with everything. And of course, Congress, presidency, we just had January 6th that we still like dealing with that happened on the Capitol. So it's just a fascinating city. How is that work, like all that intertwined?
Yeah, so DC, there's like as you mentioned, like there's 10 cities, there's the haves and the have-nots, right? DC, so there's all type of layers in DC. And with the different buildings going up, there's a lot of development in DC, and that speaks to gentrification, where it's very expensive to live. Rent, it's gonna be rent nation in DC. So housing is always an issue, and right now it's kind of a strain, a stress on housing, where it's always going to be an issue in terms of affordability. So gentrification, I grew up in Washington, D.C. The neighborhood that I grew up in is not the same neighborhood it was 5 years ago or even 10 years ago. So when I came back from DC, no, when I came back from University of Pittsburgh, my neighborhood in Petworth, DC, literally changed.
Mm.
So I came back in 2007, and I'm like, wow, this is not the neighborhood I came up in. But there's positives and there's negatives to it. In terms of gentrification, and the negatives is persons losing their homes because of affordability, tax rates, and things like that. That's very unfortunate. But also at the same time, the city really tries to make it they're really progressive in terms of wanting to make people who have been living here stay here, right? So they have culture programs, they have public housing, and whatever buildings that are being built, they have a certain amount of a percentage of housing that goes to lower income, whatever that means. So so the city tries to adjust or in that matter. As far as the police going nowhere, we need the police, even though that was like the whole defund thing, that was part of a national narrative. I don't really think that touched DC because they're a very needed professional and very needed service. Because what DC, I believe, it can look a certain way as far as with the veneer, but we still need police officers. we still need them and their services because they're highly valued in this city because that's just where it is at this time. Yep.
Yeah, I feel you on that, and myself who know police officers and grew up with when they come up and or all people that coworkers that I've had that they switch professions that are not police officers, so I know is needed. Like it's already kind of crazy in these streets as it is, and be even worse without.
Yeah,
we need some sort of I guess law and order. We need some sort of
yeah.
order.
Yeah, we need that law and order, especially I'm gonna give you a clue, especially if you're driving a Hyundai or a Kia. Those cars tend to be a target.
Well, the key they're making Kias look real nice right now. That Telluride is no joke. if they
yeah, Kias are nice. Kias are sexy. They're nice. Yeah.
So I can see why with the Kias.
Yeah. So we need officers. We need protection. Oh yeah.
For those that don't know about the Hondas and the Kias, there's some peace in those two vehicles that for some reason people like to steal those pieces from those cars and those cars specifically. So something about them, whether like resale value or whatever it is, it's rough out here with inflation and everything. So people are doing what they got to do illegal to just survive, and unfortunately, it's people are really struggling out there, and that's what I try to get at before about locally and federally. Like I don't feel like the government has done enough to really hone in into what has happened post pandemic in terms of are we really off better now than we were like 4 years ago in terms of our pockets and kind of living. And you mentioned rent and all these skyscrapers that happening. It's outrageous in DC, and these prices and going up, and as much as they call it Chocolate City for a reason. So, and now that people say that the chocolate is losing that chocolate flavor in DC. So it's It's a crazy time we're living in right now.
Yeah, I think it's more like Caramel City now. I don't know if it's still I don't know if it's still Chocolate City.
Caramel Sunday, like the Wu-Tang song.
Yeah, yeah. Some is no longer full chocolate, dark brown. No. Yeah, yeah. My old neighborhood is different. It's different. I grew up in Petworth, eighth and Upshur. I grew up in Petworth, Washington D.C. It's not what it was when I was growing up. Yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Now, I want to touch on no your the book, your thought process. Obviously, talk finances in terms of like what was your head at in terms of let's keep it real. Ash's class is not, costs a pretty penny
Yeah,
depending where you got in. I wanted like the OGs, so I got it at a good price, and then I had to like as he stepped up, I had to like step it up. I was like, oh man, it's gonna cost this much. I wanted to get the book done so bad. So like what was that like for you? Because I still get asked like, oh, like especially like the audio book, like what do you use? And it's like kind of like get like tidbits of what we learned in class and kind of like let people know like what's happening. So what was that like for you?
Well, first shout out to you for putting your book out. Yeah, your books and your
Oh,
audio
thank
out.
you.
For being intentional and lending your experience and your problem solving. Because I know people benefit from that. But my space in regards to my book, How to Win Against Student Debt, um, I had a lot of motivation. I was in a situation where I needed to pay back my student loan debt because at the time, my family was growing. It was only it's three of us right now, three of
Mm,
us there. But this is maybe back in I graduated in 2007. I wasn't taking my student loans seriously. I figured as long as I pay them, I'll just keep them at bay, and this is all good. So I'll be straight as long as paying the minimum.
right.
Right. So just get out my face. I'll pay you, stay off my back. I want to live my life. But as life changes, your needs change and your
Mm,
family needs as well and wants also. So this maybe back in 2013, I think my wife was pregnant, and then something said, "Oh my gosh, I'm about to have a son or a daughter. I need to do better." And I was still paying my student loans. I did join some public service loan forgiveness programs, and I was paying my student loan just the minimum. But I noticed that the balance was not uh, decreasing. It wasn't going anywhere. And matter of fact, it actually increased,
mm-hmm.
right? And for some reason, one day I looked up in my bank account. My bank account was negative. I don't know if you ever had a negative bank account before.
Yes, sir.
Anybody?
2005 to like 2010, 2011.
Okay,
Definitely
okay.
Bank of America definitely saw some
Yeah.
negative balances, especially God rest his soul to my ex-wife.
Mhm, mhm.
Writing checks and like, why you writing a check for? We ain't got no more money.
Right, right. So you feel me. You feel me. So I saw my account uh, 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 going in negative. I'm like 645 negative. I was paying $200 for it. What? Oh, that's my student loan. So I saw it go negative, and then I looked at my student loan account, the balance of it. And I actually saw the balance decrease. I said, "What? This thing can actually decrease. It'll actually move." And I looked at the account in terms of how much was being applied to the principal and the interest.
Mm,
I saw that about maybe $400 was going to the interest and 200 was going to the principal. But I said that little window of movement. Said, wow, this is so that I can actually move this thing. So there's some possibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my living situation was even more motivation. My all three of us were sharing one room, one bedroom, right, in a relative's house. So me as a man, I'm like, I can't provide the way I want to provide living in one room with my family. I gotta do better,
Right.
right? Right. So as a social worker, we talk about thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, right? A little bit of CBT. And I talk about that thoughts, feelings, and behaviors in terms of money, related to money. If it was all math, if money, think of it as a pie or debt as a pie. Money,
Mm-hmm.
if money was all about math, we'd all be finished with our debts. But money is emotional,
That's a
right?
fact.
So it's 80% emotional, 20% math. So I had to examine my beliefs about debt and money. I remember my mother; she told me that when I was younger, that and I didn't understand it. No younger person will understand this, but oh, I don't. She said she didn't live check to check. I didn't understand what she meant. Basically, that this meant she always had money if she missed a check, right? So I had to. She talked about compulsory savings, right? So what I did, I had to come up with different strategies like uh, do automatic drafts from my checking to my savings every 2 weeks, right? And I start out with a certain number and I increase that number over time. Oh,
Mm.
but by the way, on my journey, it wasn't that easy. It wasn't simply implementing that. I did lose my job,
Mm.
right? Part of that was my fault is because I didn't have the proper licensure uh, for the city. I had a licensure, like you have the LG, then you need the LI.
Right.
Uh, I did approach that test. I took that test, but that test is hard. That that test, but during that time, I mean, that time of me being out of work for 6 to 8 months, I did have a cushion
Mm.
of of income. I did have, so we weren't struggling. And also, I was also studying for my next licensure, right? For the LICSW. So that's another nugget right there, or strategy. Always retool or skill up, right? Um, and I did eventually get my LICSW, and I got my job, a new job. So I was able to get back on the horse, right? So I was still motivated to pay off my student loan debt. Maybe this is going on between 2013. The thought hit me, and I got serious around that time. I was scheduled to pay off my student loan debt in 2025, which is next year.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually paid off my student loan debt on Valentine's Day, in 2020, right before the pandemic.
Oh,
Right, so
nice.
so I was just looking at my file, like, oh shoot, this is when I actually paid it off because so, but that came from creating goals. So we talk about SMART goals a lot. We talk about
Mm-hmm.
SMART goals, especially in treatment plans. I said, man, if I can use SMART goals in my treatment plans, why can't I use it personally? And yeah, so I use that for myself. I would make a friend with my calendar. I heard before you put your goals in front of you. You want to keep it in front of you so you can, work those goals. And SMART goals they're specific, measurable, achievable, relative, and timely goals, right? So that really helped me in terms of progressing. Also, trying to get out to one bedroom and
Mm-hmm.
uh, eventually get into a position where we were able to get the student loan out the way in 2020, and that helped provide more opportunity for myself and family, right? So um, part of it was mindset, and a lot of it was getting um, putting the behaviors behind it, and also motivation. My motivation was find people or find the minority of people that have actually paid back their student loans, because there's a majority of people saying that you can't do it, or you can't do it without a program, right? And I'm not hating on income-driven repayment programs. I was on an income-driven repayment program, but you can skill up and find other ways to either it's not all about the speed of your hands or back, but you can also skillfully um, um, use tactics to be able to pay back your student loans as well. I'll give you an example. For instance, adjusting your certain tax documents, like your W-4, right? You want to change that as your situation changes. So, and also, what else? Subscribing to your lender's back office, or no, draft, right? Drafting so they could draft your account. And what that does is basically, in my situation, it took off about 0.25% of our student loan.
Mm.
And when you do that, that yields thousands of dollars saved, right? So in reality, on paper, I owed about 58,000 on paper, but we know that you're not really paying back 58,000. In reality, with principal and interest, you're paying about $100-something thousand, right? So every little piece of interest that I could shave off, I shaved off, because I knew I was going against time as well. I didn't have a lot of time, right? Also, I needed to increase my budget. I needed to increase my income. I had to do other things to um, um, be able to get to my goal faster. So it was a mindset shift. It was a belief shift. It was about listening to people or finding sources that affirmed what I believed in. Um, that made it possible, right? So um, so after I paid off that student loan debt, I think it was a relief, but I'm thankful, because it's a mental health issue as well. I call it a self-care issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, taking care of your financial well-being.
No, of course.
Yeah, because one of the number one reasons people go to doctors is stress related. Is stress related. And I wanted to be in a position where I had more years added to my life, and more life added to my years as well. So I was in a situation where I had to do what I had to do, and I'm thankful. And I know my family is thankful, and I just kept the faith and kept going, right? Because I saw that other people can do it, so why not me?
Right. Yeah, I talk. Yeah, that's mainly what I focus on with my business, where I see the emotional aspect in terms of money and finances. That is more about not just looking at the numbers, but how are you feeling regarding your financial situation and what led up to that point, and how you want to try to solve that issue or issues that you have going on. So you basically, what you're saying is basically what I'm doing with my business. So on the side, on top of my nine to five. So was so your book is is how to win against student debt.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
And so all these great tidbits that you talk about are in the book.
Yes, sir. Different great tips, different tips in the book that that I've used, I've experienced, and that benefited. I know can benefit other people in their journey as well. And I think whoever reads it, whether either they can read it or they can listen to it as well. So listening to Ash Cash, she said, be everywhere. So it, and frankly, I choose to listen to things. That's how I learn a lot, right? But yeah, those tips are inside of the book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I try to talk about mindset first, and then I give the practical tips, right? Because if you don't, I think one of the things we've learned from, especially Ask Cash, if you don't have the mind, if you don't have the mindset, you're not going to do
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah, because your body follows your mind. So, uh, and you know, this I feel so good, especially as a social worker. I'm actualizing what I teach. I mean, in ways not to. I'm not talking about money to my students, but when you talk about thoughts and feelings and behaviors, I need to be able to be an example about following through about what I talk about, right? I just want to be an example, or just give out the information to other people and encourage them to say, okay, wow, if he could do it, why not? Or yeah, if he can do it, why not me?
Gotcha. So what? So going back to like that that mindset of, so how did the book came about?
So how did it come about?
From
So
coming about to like enrolling in the class and kind of like, shoot, like I have this idea, let me maybe I'll
yeah,
write a book.
thanks. So one of the things that they encourage us to do, they say if you're gonna and Ash is all about writing books. I did join that. I joined the program that you and I joined in, and I then eventually connected with Ash Cash, um, and he majors in books and speaking. Right, so I was always shy about speaking, but the book I said, all right, let me see if I could do that, and this student loan payment was part of my lived experience. And one of the things he said is, you don't need to be talking right now. What did he say? Autobiography? Was it autobiography? Is it
Yeah, some
autobiography when you
yeah,
write
some
about your life?
yeah, something like that.
Yeah, he said that's not really needed right now. Nobody. It's more so about write something that can help people solve problems. And I've heard a lot about this word called value, and you want to add value to people as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, when you listen to the news, which I try not to do a lot of, you hear about the student loan crisis. You hear about student loan debt, how it's been a problem. You hear about how they're going to forgive, how they may not forgive, right?
Mm.
Right. So people's emotions are like a pendulum, like they're playing with people's feelings. So I figured, okay, maybe I could use my lived experience and the practices that I use uh, to write a book via inspiration from Ash Cash. Otherwise, I wouldn't have wrote a book. Or been able to articulate that I needed to write a book, right? So the way the book came about was through Ash Cash's coaching. Um, Also, his system as well. So I followed his system and used whatever he presented as the best resources to be able to write that book. That was a process. It took some time. Also, as far as writing it, right? Because I had to send it to this person and that person to review to make sure that it made sense as far as far as the way it flowed and things like that. Because it was my first time doing it. Um, Also, from writing it to even recording it as well. I didn't want to record or put my voice out there anywhere because what I was going to do, I was going to hire somebody.
Mm.
But Ash was like, "Nah, you need to talk in your own book. You need to record your own book or narrate your own book." I was like, "Oh shoot."
No, nobody can express the feelings of your writing like you.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, yeah. I said like, man, it got real. So um, I had to be humble, and I took my cell phone. I downloaded the app, took my cell phone, and I recorded my voice into my book. Now my book is on Audible, it's on Google Play. And I looked at it, following his tutelage and his tutelage. He said you need to be everywhere, right? And I just followed his skill, his tactics, his strategy, right? So I was just trying to be a student. So the book came about by me just being a continuous student. And I also believe that God put us here to be creators. right?
Mm-hmm.
We were made in the image of Him. So it feels so good to be able to put something out there of value where it can possibly change somebody's trajectory in life. Um, and it can help not only them, but it helps their family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's how my book came about. It was I think there was something in me that wanted to get it out there, but I just didn't know how to until that type of person in the form of Ash Cash
Mm-hmm.
influenced and pushed um, a person like myself into that direction. Because when I joined that program, there were different avenues. There was something to do with insurance, something to do with real estate, different things. But I think Ash Cash really, you know, he was able, me joining that class was able, really helpful in getting this um, intellectual property out there that other people can use.
No, yeah. And and this by and this goes back to networking. Like I said, the very beginning. This a group of people getting together. We got this idea. Like literally, like when I wrote my book, just out of nowhere, the dude that was sitting on the couch, I might have been on the computer because this was during COVID, and like literally like my mom was still like in the nursing home, or she ended up like in the hospital after that from catching COVID, like right before she passed. And it's like I'm like sitting on the couch, might have been like a IG live or whatever. I did like 1,001 different Zoom calls for different things I signed up with, and some guru talking,
Mm-hmm.
and like words started popping in my head, and it's like oh snap, this rhyme.
Yeah,
Then like a week later, whatever, like write something down. Like okay, this rhyme. Or literally like in my sleep, like wake up, like I gotta write this down, like it literally in the dark, like writing, like I'll figure it out in the morning,
yeah, yeah,
or like I'm in the shower, like literally I had to take a pen and pad in the shower. The words would start coming while I'm in the shower, and like let me write this down, cause I know I'm gonna forget, and like so enough, I had to like these poems. And I was like, I need to figure out how to like. First, I was gonna do my own ebook and just do it on my own. I was like, and then I joined the class, and it was like, so just that class alone was like, I could. You mentioned no step up, and like, all right, I actually get the book, of actual physical book out, and not just like an ebook and sell it for a couple bucks here, whatever, and actually like put it on Amazon. So it was like, all right, like try to do all the steps best
yeah,
I could and got it out. And then like, he mentioned, try to be everywhere. And it's like, so I spent like the last year trying to do the audiobook, and I was like, I need to get this done. Like, so
yeah,
I
yeah,
made time in the summer, and it's like got it done. And it's like, so it's just yeah, it's just a power of like networking, and there's a lot of cool people. We got like teachers in there. We got like people working like uh, child services, just like a whole group from all walks of life in terms of work experience and lived experience, with a common goal of becoming published authors and possible best-selling authors. And we do try to get speaking engagements based on off the book, and or just like pitching to different agencies and companies, and like putting ourselves out there. So just using our transferable skills,
yeah,
related back to social work, and kind of, you know, has the book has like the opening and kind of open the door into doing other stuff that we already normally doing anyway, talking to people and connecting and referring people, and like engaging with folks, and kind of just doing what we've been doing and what we studied in social work grad school, and just make money off of it and not necessarily like needing like the extra letters in our name, after our name, and try to make some money.
yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, it's good that the byproduct is making some money, and
And
why
making an
not?
impact too.
Making an impact. Why not? Why not you? Why not you? Why not anybody else? I mean, if you have the skills and you can lend it to other people and they can profit from your skills, why not? If they could learn from you what you've learned, your lived experience, and there's an exchange of value there. Well, why not? Right? Because part of it is fulfilling. And I feel it feels good. When putting out this book, that people actually take interest in it. I'm like, oh man, like that's a piece of me out there and a piece of you out there where people are consuming and they're taking advantage of it in a good way. It's just like, wow. So it's great, that just being in this circles of influence and somebody said on one of the calls that there's a lot of power in connectivity,
Mm-hmm.
right?
That's a
So
fact.
so putting yourself in those environments, where people are really like walking and running to get better. Even in the Bible, it says, "Walk with the wise, you become wise."
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, so being in those type of groups, and I believe this is the age of partnership. I I believe this takes people to another level, right? It'll take you to another level, and just eke stuff out of you, that you didn't know you could do or would do. So, so writing a book, I didn't imagine myself doing this back in after I paid off my student loan. I didn't that wasn't in my thought. I was just like, oh, thank you, God.
Exactly.
Because
I'm
yeah,
I'm
huh?
I'm at, I'm gonna have that same feeling sometime this year.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely possible. Because then that paying off that student loan, it opened up other opportunities. And life doesn't stop. Things don't
Mm-hmm.
stop when you have new opportunities. We're able to get a house, and but that didn't stop us from having challenges with having roof repairs,
Of course.
roof or having challenges having to get a new HVAC. Life doesn't stop. But getting that
I,
out the
I,
way,
I feel you about the HVAC.
yeah, I'm about to get a home warranty. I ain't about to finance no HVACs. I ain't financing. But I'm but that clearing that super low obstacle, or destroying that obstacle, obliterating that obstacle, allowed me the capacity, the bandwidth to be able to attack things like getting a new roof and getting a new HVAC, getting a new water heater for our house. Because a lot of things came um, after I cleared off my student loan. It just created new opportunities, but it's a blessing though. I look at the past and say, okay, one bedroom we stayed in. With that one bedroom, I was able to save up even more because one of the most expensive bills we have is where we live,
Mm.
right? Right. Um, so I'm thankful. I'm thankful. I'm not. We yeah.
And
That was my
and
experience.
that was a perfect time too, like February 2020, because soon enough came those stimmy checks.
Oh my gosh, that was right before. And you know what? I thought this whole the I don't know if I can say it because I know this is gonna be uploaded. The thing, the CVID was
Right.
going to be very temporary. I thought it was going to be temporary. I was like, oh, we're going to go back because it came in March.
Right.
Oh, they said school's going to be out. I said, oh, okay, we'll be back like another week. And they said, nah. So yeah, everything changed. Everything changed when that happened. Um, and even with that, like the way that um, um, the pandemic is treating student loans that open up opportunities for people to get their student loans forgiven. But we don't know what that is going to look like in the future, right? Because we have forgiveness programs like the SAVE program, they're on hold,
Right.
right? They're on and off. They're on and off.
Mm.
We don't know. So my plea to people is, what's your personal plan? What is your plan? what type of skills do you have to increase your budget or have a cushion for yourself in respect to getting rid of your student loan. So outside of any whether you're and these are the symbols, whether you're a donkey or an elephant, as far as politics, what's your personal plan in terms of attacking your student loan debt?
That's especially when later on in the fall, like, gotta start paying them back, and who knows if those any student loan programs are even gonna exist once, in case a man with orange skin tone run the country again.
Right. We don't know. So what's your personal plan? So I encourage people to really take, not that they're not responsible, to really take an honest look. And once again, it's hard to look at things like student debt because it's painful. And human beings, we tend to run away from pain. It's just not right. So, but also, I think if a social work, we think about reality, right? We have to examine our thoughts and feelings about these things, and also adjust our behaviors if you really want to get things like something like a student loan out the way. Um, and also, there's a beginning and there's a beginning, middle, and an end to every story. So your student loan story doesn't have to last forever, right? It doesn't have to last for, the average person takes about 20 plus years, 20 years to pay back that student loan. So it doesn't have to last that long. If you can figure out a plan and take some of the tactics that I wrote out in my book, you can pay back your student debt as well. But start where you are. But the most important thing is to start.
Right. And even like going back this is going back like 2014, 2015, like, I mean, once I had moved out and moved back with my parents, like even right before I moved back, I was like, I even called up, I had Nelnet at the time. So I noticed what you said earlier was like, okay, I'm paying, I might pay like slightly more than the minimum, but I didn't see the balance go down. I'm like, but I'm giving you more money than the minimum. Why is it not going down? And it's like, so I called Nelnet. I'm like, why is it not going down? And they told me like how much they charge per interest per day.
Thank you.
So like I added all that up. I was like, okay, I need to pay such and such amount to really see a dent in terms of the student loan. So that's exactly, especially once I move back home, move back to the Bronx and move back with my parents, and like kind of, all right, I'm gonna pay this month this much every month, and if there are certain months, especially like especially in social work, sometimes there's those months that you get 3 checks in a month, maybe like take some of that money and start putting that towards debt, and really kind of see that
Mm-hmm.
see a dent and go, oh, it's actually going down.
Yeah. It's actually going down.
At that, even when in 2020, like when we first got the stimmy, and I was like planning on getting a house, was my goal, like going into 2020, 2021. And the first stimmy I got, I was like thinking about my debt to income ratio, and it was like the whole first check went into the student loans. I'm trying to maximize my debt to income ratio. That way, when I try to get my mortgage that come in, like that's not going to be an issue. So that you're going to give me another check? Okay, here take the whole check.
Yeah. And when you did that, you didn't just pay additional interest, or you didn't
It went
just
to
pay.
principal. It went straight to principal because they stopped the interest.
Right. You didn't just pay additional principal. You bought back time.
Exactly.
Bought back time. Right. And that's something that can't be replaced. Right. So it's all about time and quality of life.
Exactly. The quality of life is.
Hmm?
Yeah, exactly. It's the quality of life. Exactly.
Yeah, because we talk about that in our profession, and we talk about that among different populations, especially the elderly, right? Quality of life. Some people are, bad quality of life where they're in physical pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to be in a quality of life where you're always stressing, right? So it's about having more life in your years, right? Not just existing.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So I think, and even like taking, I heard someone say that, especially even in black and brown, if you talk about crime, in black and brown groups, a lot of crime is economically related.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I know I just went there somewhere random, but if we could get to a point where we're conscious of that and we control that, I think there'll be like less crime, especially you know, um, if we're not compromised as much by not by just not having it. We need to be able to control our finances and be aware of it, right? So
Nah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that would. Nah, that's like it's baffling that these politicians like, well, like why is so much crime? What's happening? Well, like, I mean, you're closing down programs left and right for teenage kids. There's no after school programs. There's like all these school shootings that are happening. Like why am I going to go to school? Am I going to get shot in school? That's like homeschooling that's happening, especially post pandemic. Like this, there's supposedly the government has all these like created all these jobs, but like people don't companies don't want to pay, and it's like especially in social workers like went through a job change and like I want this amount. It's like no, this is the offer. I was like these companies don't want to pay.
well, well, there's I think the pandemic changed up some stuff. I get this email, and I started getting it during when I was unemployed. And I applied to this place. I was applying to different jobs, and I still get those email where they have traveling social workers.
Yeah, that's a thing. Yes.
And I was just looking at the compensation. I'm like, oh wow, that's pretty decent. So I think the pandemic kind of changed some things up
Yeah,
within our
well,
profession.
the thing they don't tell you about that, like for because I've heard about that and looked into it, like they don't pay like for the travel, so you like yeah you get a check and I think is I'm sure you got to pay some taxes or you might have, depending where you're traveling to, you might be paying. It's like an NBA player, you might be paying like the sport tax, and then like in the if you're traveling from one state to another, you're paying those extra taxes and stuff. But I'm not sure about that, but I looked into that. Like a lot of stuff has happened, and especially the work from home situation has happened. There's a lot of remote stuff or hybrid models. My new job I'm doing a hybrid model now, and I love it so far. Between my less traveling on the road has definitely helped my back and my quality of life. Help with my feet. I got nerve issues in my feet, so I'm driving less now and definitely save on the wallet with the gas because gas.
Oh, okay.
So it's like it's those little things that the quality, like you mentioned, like we focus on our clients and their quality of life. We got to think about ourselves too because we're the ones out there like meeting with the clients.
Yeah, we want to avoid burnout, right? Uh, we want to have a quality of life and also have things around us. Like one thing that I do, especially in quality of life and just staying motivated, is I turn off the regular radio, right? And I replace it, that substitution, I replace it with things that are more empowering, uh, things that could help not just me, but help my clients as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because whatever we pour in is going to come out somehow. And also download things from Audible that help me in my profession, learning about different subjects and trying to form a niche in social work. Right? Learning more about brain science and things like that. Those, just being motivated and be learning how to add more value to people. It's not just about motivation because motivation disappears.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to add more value to people has helped me in my profession, right? Help not just me, but help me on the teams that I'm on in terms of my colleagues. That's helped me a lot, and being able to empathize more with clients.
No, I like that, and even like for me, like I've done some stuff with kids, and like even when like NFTs was a big thing, like up to like 2022, and it's like, but just having a conversation like with kids, it'd be like they drawing a picture or something, and like you drawing an NFT, they'd be like, what's that? And kind of like because some kids, especially when they grow up, like they might not, their circumstances, how they might not be like able to be exposed to that, but and kind of have those conversations, just kind of be exposed. Like there's stuff out that's not outside of your day in day out stuff, and kind of like get them to think, outside the box. And like, I think like one of my biggest struggles, uh, working in the schools like right after the pandemic was like at least the schools that I worked at, they were this like pandemic never happened. It was like
Oh,
the structure of the school, and it's like we got these kindergartners or first graders coming in that did not have any schooling, and now they coming in and you giving them a piece of
wow.
paper to do work, and it's like, what is this? I'm on the iPad all day, all summer.
Yeah, yeah. The habits and the socialization wasn't there because of the pandemic.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So it, those things happen. So where can people get the book, and where people can find you?
Oh, thank you. So where they get the book, they can get the book on Amazon. Type in "How to Win Against Student Debt." You'll see my name, Andre Edwards. It'll be one of the first books you can find on Audible as well. You can find it on Google Play. You can find it on multiple platforms. Target. I think you can find it on Target.
You got it on Target?
I think so. I think so. It's on Target. I think so because it's part of the list. There's different
That's what's
menus.
up.
Even I typed in Google the other day, and if you just type in that name, "How to Win Against Student Debt" and my name, Andre Edwards, it'll pop up in multiple places. Check out Google Play. You can find me at on YouTube, Win by Design. Win by Design. That's my YouTube channel. I was scared. I was scared of making a YouTube channel, but being part of the community that I'm part of, it pushed me out there. I didn't want to put myself out there. I was, I don't know, a screenshot. I don't know, man. And I had a whole presentation talking about social media and its effects on mood, and I'm on social media now. That's so that. So that's Win by Design, or you can find me on Instagram. Instagram handle Simby0417. Simby Simby 0417. So those are my different places. I'm also on Facebook as well.
All right, awesome. Great talking to you. And I'll see you in class one of these days.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate you for the opportunity. Just be able to share with you and your audience. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Nah, absolutely.
Yes.